Welcome to the Left of Str8 Show, where we talk entertainment, music, books, foodies, and more each week with special guest interviews of interest to the LGBTQ community and our straight allies. Direct from the entertainment capital of Northeast Ohio. Your host, Scott Fullerton, chats with some of your favorite entertainers, celebrities, newsmakers, and behind-the-scenes people across the country and around the world who make it all happen. So sit back, grab your favorite beverage, and let's start talking.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Left of Str8 Show, your premier source for LGBTQ talk radio from a slightly different angle. It's time for another interview with a distinct voice in our community, this time from the world of entertainment and film. I'm your host, as always, Scott Fullerton, and today I'm thrilled to have an incredibly talented writer, director, producer, and actor, Mark Schwab, with us. He'll be joining us once again. Many of you might remember Mark from a previous appearance on the podcast, where we discussed his thought-provoking film, Crisis Hotline. Today, we have the privilege of delving into Mark's latest projects, Brotherly Lies and Exteriors, both of which promise to captivate audiences with their compelling narratives and heartfelt performances. So without further ado, let's welcome back to the show the handsome and talented Mr. Mark Schwab. How you doing, sir?
I am fantastic. Not only am I feeling left of straight, but I'm also left-handed too. So I fit everything. I'm ready.
Bonus. I like that. We are left all over the place there. Yes. Congratulations. Hey, it's so good to talk to you, my friend. Happy Pride Month to you. We are shooting this in Pride Month here, and I believe it's going to air in Pride Month. How is your Pride going? And let everyone know where you're calling in from today.
Well, yeah, I'm calling in from Los Gatos, California. I make most of my projects here in the South Bay area, and my Pride Month is going great. I have, two projects, a brand new one coming out that's, with Exteriors. It's going to be hitting the festival circuit this summer, the end of this summer and into the fall. And then that'll come out on streaming. And Brotherly Lies is now available on streaming for people to watch. So I'm having a great month.
Very nice indeed. And yes, Diamond in the Rough Pictures is killing it there. What I want to do is I want to talk about all these things, but let's start with, when we talked last, it was pre-pandemic with Crisis Hotline. Now you have these two films that were done during the pandemic. Talk to me about getting these films made. What were maybe some of the challenges and what made it a little different this time around?
Well, Brotherly Lies was definitely the more pandemic-y of the two, I would say, because we shot that in February of 2021. When it was in full swing. And the main reason I did it at the time was, first of all, I was just restless. I really wanted to do something. I wanted to take this opportunity to do something. And we did it from a standpoint of really experimenting with different equipment at the time. We really wanted to try a whole different setup because, like every pandemic cautionary tale, we wanted to keep the crew very low. We wanted to keep it very safe. And so we wanted to see, could we do an entire movie with a crew of two, basically, and record it and shoot it and have it be able to pass QC for streaming services? Could we do it? And I really, really give credit to that cast for Brotherly Lies because yes, we all took tests. Yes, we did the little thermometer and everything and we wiped everything down and, but still it still took a lot of bravery for them to do it. And it was because of the pandemic why I'm in the movie. I don't really call myself an actor, but I had tried to cast two people to play my part and they wouldn't do it, which I kind of expected because of the pandemic. And finally it was, the producers kind of talked me into doing it. And so that left me and it made scheduling easier, the budget better, and it just kept everybody safer.
Very nice. I love that. And I believe that independent LGBTQ LGBTQ cinema is so unique and essential to begin with. But in your opinion, talk about what it's like in today's environment. I think one of the things we learned from the pandemic is other filmmakers started streaming and doing things that you guys have done all along. Have you found this has kind of aided in your filmmaking process? Has it changed it at all? Or is it pretty much business as usual for you?
Maybe it changed it a little bit. It didn't, because with exteriors, when we did exteriors, we upped our game a little bit more because we learned a lot with Brotherly Lies making that film. I mean, we made it for, the change you'd find in the bottom of, my mom's purse is what the budget was for that. And so we said, okay, well, some things worked, some things didn't. So we did change some equipment, but at the same time, we still kept it. We've always been able to keep things pretty lean and in order for me to make the films that I want to make. I'm not a big fan of asking permission to make movies. I want to be able to make them when I want to make them. And so with exteriors, I can say that the pandemic did teach us that we could keep it even leaner than we thought we could and still deliver a quality product. So yeah, a little bit, I would say, in that way. Now, as far as what you said with gay independent film, did you ask me about the state of it or what I thought of it?
Yeah,
or?
What do you think the state of independent film is right now? Is it still, I just think it's so essential out there for movie making. We have all these great queer festivals, but do you think that it's really getting the recognition it deserves yet?
I would say yes and no. For me, I'm going to maybe I'll be a little controversial here, but my friends have encouraged me to say this. For me, I see a lot of LGBTQ films being very similar. I just see them being very similar. It's not that it's bad or that it's wrong. It's just I wasn't seeing enough stories that I was personally interested in or that represented things that I was thinking about. And so I am now, I didn't embrace it before, but I'm embracing it much more now, that I'm trying to tell a very different type of LGBTQ story. And I'm finding that it seems to so far be more popular with straight audiences than gay audiences. My films aren't super angry. They're not political. They don't have an agenda. They're stories about people. And the characters in my films aren't really victims. They're dealing with interpersonal relationships. And that's the type of stories I wanted to see. And I didn't see enough of that personally. So I don't want anything to necessarily change or tell filmmakers what to make at all. But that's what I'm trying to tell, a different type of LGBTQ story that you don't see out there is what I'm trying to do. Right. And I'm now owning it instead of fighting against it or trying to rail against it or thinking, why aren't the gay audiences responding? Well, no, they are, of course. And also just that I'm doing something different, and that's fine. And I'm glad I can do that.
There you go. Well said. I like that. And the thing that I talked a little bit about off air with you, but the things that I love about your films is I think they definitely have a definitive style. There's maybe a slightly dark narrative to them as they go through, so they have that angst and maybe gives them that drama involved. But like in the case of Crisis Hotline, it was literally dark choices in the cinematography. You were working in a lot of enclosed areas. And I think these two films used elements of that magnificently. I talked to you earlier about what I really loved about Brotherly Lies is the use of darkness. There was a beautiful scene out of doors in this gorgeous facility that we'll talk about later on. Mm-hmm. Also indoors when there was kind of a power problem. I think it was just beautifully shot lighting. I love that part. And then in exteriors, I think your use of small space is amazing. We're going to talk about how it's broken down into three distinct parts of the film. Mm-hmm. But I think in each part, like the first one in the hallway sequence was amazing, in the psychiatrist's office in the third. These are very strong stylistic choices. Is it something you're comfortable with, something you like? Is it something that just happens naturally for you? Talk about the stylistic choices in your films.
That's a great question. Well, one thing that I've always been attracted to is when I think back when I was 21, I saw a very faded VHS copy of The Boys in the Band from 1970. And that movie made a profound impact on me. I'd never seen anything like it. At that time, it was a bootleg VHS tape. It wasn't even available. And I was lucky I got to see it. And I knew nothing about it when I sat down and watched it in 1989. And I was so absorbed in it. And I still am. It's a very powerful film for me. And that definitely informs a lot of my choices, is in I like putting characters in a spot where they can't escape and they have to metaphorically deal with what's going on. They can't get away, so to speak. And so I like, cloistered and tough, gnarled character, joustings, or something like Long Day's Journey into Night, or the Sidney Lumet film, or all of those things. Films like Failsafe, also by Sidney Lumet, where they're in these tight spaces and they can't get out. Now that's a different type of trapped, but for me, it's these characters that are trapped with their emotions and trapped with their situation, and they have to deal with it no matter, and there's nowhere to go. So I am kind of naturally attracted to that personally, in so far, at least in the work that I do. But I do like all types of movies. I would love to work in every genre. I'd love to do a horror film. I'd love to do a musical. I would. But for this, yes, this is stuff that I really get into. So I'm very comfortable in tight spaces and making them that they just can't get out, and they have to face it.
It's done very well. And like I said, your use of light as well is amazing. Also talk about, a lot of similarities to both Crisis Hotline and these two films is the touching upon mental health issues. How is that important to you? I think you handle it very well, very deftly. Is it important to you to cover these issues? It just happens to be part of the story. Talk about what brings this subject matter into your films.
That's a fantastic question. As far as mental health issues, I have a very different approach to it, I would say, with Brotherly Lies and Exteriors than I did when I made Crisis Hotline, which is, by the way, I have to, there's a whole thing with that, and I really want to address it. The original title of that film was Shadows in Mind, and the distributor at the time changed that title, and we ended up getting the title back from that distributor. And we're going to be re-releasing it as Shadows in Mind with a different beginning, some different edits, a whole different score, and different coloring. I can't wait to show it to you because we just finished it. And we're going to be sending that out in the festival circuits as well. And it's going to be coming out on streaming as Shadows in Mind. So look for it there. I think you're going to be excited with the changes that have been done to it. And it's if you thought it looked great before, it looks stunning today. And it sounds stunning. The whole soundscape is so much different and more powerful. So I can't wait to show you that. I'll give you the sneak peek because
I feel privileged. Thank you. I'm excited.
Can't wait
for
till
that.
you see it. So as far as but to continue with that, since the pandemic, a lot of the people that I interact with, a lot of the things I see, I think we really do have in this country a lot of mental health crisis. A lot of people are feeling so much pressure, so much fear, so much anger at so many things that it's creeping into their relationships. It's creeping into their everyday lives, even if it's not directly, it's indirectly affecting relationships all over the place. And so that is something that I'm sensitive to, something that I've had direct experience with, and I want to make sure that it is handled thoughtfully and maturely, as much as I can observe it and give a proper perspective. And I give it a lot of respect too. Mental health is tricky stuff, and there's no simple fix. There really isn't.
I love that. I just think it's so important that we definitely tackle those issues. And like I said, you do it so deftly that it's quite impressive.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I would say that, the biggest thing I learned, if there's one piece of advice I could give over these past 3 years. And I mean, 2021 was a difficult year for me in a lot of ways personally. And the one thing that is most important is the support system that you have. Use that. Do not isolate. Do not hide away. Use the people that are close that will take your call at 2 a.m. if you need to. Those people are where it's at. Cultivate them, be grateful for them, and nurture them. That is one of the best pieces of advice I could give to people who are struggling with all sorts of mental health stuff. Definitely.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite sayings that you hear often these days is not all heroes wear capes. And we found that out in the pandemic, and we're definitely finding it out in the after effects of things that are happening there. So well done on you for doing that. And talking about kind of common themes for your films, you've also used actors that you previously worked with as well. Panos Saklas, Christian Lopez from the first film are featured in these films. You've used some of your films for Brotherly Lives. Brotherly Lives and Exteriors, you have almost a sequel in some ways, although it's not carrying on those specific story. It's bringing those characters back. Talk about your affinity for working with these actors and what kind of a shorthand have you grown to work with them?
Oh, wow. That's a great question too. Well, that was one of the big things that inspired Exteriors. Is I'm a big fan of I'm a big fan of Bret Easton Ellis and his books. I like reading his novels, and he has recurring characters that go through the novels. Sometimes they're on one page, sometimes they're in a whole chapter. And my husband was the one that kind of suggested, he said, boy, wouldn't it be fun for you to get some of those characters from Brotherly Lies and use them again? I said, that is interesting. I've never done that creatively. I've never done kind of world building or whatever. And so let's see what happens. And I knew I didn't want to just continue that Brotherly Lies story. I thought Brotherly Lies was complete where it was, but I thought, what could I do if I could get these characters in different situations with different actors? That might be really interesting, and I think the actors might find that interesting. So when I broached it with Pano, with Jose Fernando, who plays Kenny, and with Jacob Betts, who plays Shane, they were very excited to do it. They thought that was a really interesting idea. So I shot them as 3 separate movies, kind of. They really were all 3 separate productions, kind of. But I always intended it as an anthology. I always wanted it to be 3 separate stories. And for me, Brotherly Lies was a wonderful shoot. I had worked with all of them except Jose, really, and Jacob I had met before and knew him a bit. I just hadn't worked with him yet. But Jose was the one brand new person, and that was a tremendous experience. And so as far as shorthand, I think the main thing that I have with them is the most important piece of shorthand is they know how I operate. They know how to prepare. And so they know what I'm looking for. I don't have to give them a lot of direction. I really don't. They know what I want. And I also know what works best for them as actors to set up the arena so that they can play as well as they can. So that's another big piece of shorthand. I know how to make them comfortable. I know what they like and also what doesn't work for them, because that's something very important whenever I meet an actor for the first time. I want to know what doesn't work for you. I want to make sure not to step on that landmine. And so that's the shorthand, is I know how to set up the environment for them very well, I think. And as far as it was great, because with Christian Gabriel, and I also brought back Michael Champlin from Shadows in Mind, who played the very evil Forrest. That was wonderful getting to work with him again, playing a completely different part. In fact, playing the good guy now. Instead of exploiting Pano's character, he's protecting Pano's character, which he really enjoyed doing. And with Christian, that was a really funny thing. I had another actor already cast in that part. And unfortunately, he had an injury, he had a physical injury, could not do it. And so it was one of my producers that said, what about Christian? And I said, wow, let me reach out to him and see. And so I did, and it was so funny. I said, I sent him the script to Wyatt totally unsolicited. I said, I just want you to read this and tell me what you think. And he got back to me immediately. He said, I have to play Wyatt. Are you making this? He says, I have to do this. And I said, well, I'm glad you said that because it's yours if you want it. And Christian was fantastic. It was so good seeing him. I hadn't seen him in a few years, and it was like no time had passed. And he got to play something completely different. He looks terrific. I love that shaved head and the goatee. I just thought he looked incredibly good. He looked sexy and different, and it was a total 180 from Danny in Shadows in Mind, and he just ate the role up. And they were all wonderful, and it was fun watching my Brotherly Lies cast interact with some of these other folks. Very interesting.
I bet that'd be very cool.
It was.
I think the casting was amazing. I think it was some great choices. I'd seen Robert Sean Campbell in something before, and I don't remember what it was, but he brought a real, I think, depth to that character. That's not the most likable character in the world, and he did bring some depth to it. I thought that was very interesting. I thought the choice of Casey Semple, who played Lauren, I loved some of getting to know her character a bit, and then the political aspect intrigued me when that was finally revealed. And I thought it brought a little background to her character of having to play this kind of conciliatory in the film as well. And
well, Casey and Robert,
everyone did really well.
Thank you. Oh, yeah.
What's
no,
that?
I just want to say Casey and Robert are both local, and they've worked together quite a bit. So that's why that worked so well. They know they've worked together. They've known each other for years. And I've been looking for any excuse to work with Casey. I've known her for 10 years probably, and finally got the perfect part for her. And so it was wonderful getting to work with her finally, and to do and
definitely
to really
superbly cast right, exactly. Yeah. And Jose Fernando, I've not seen in anything before, and I was blown away by him. He was probably my favorite character in the first film.
Oh, excellent!
And it just,
I
just
love
think
hearing you say that.
When Christian came back on in Exteriors, I've known Christian for a while. We've been good friends.
Oh,
and he's gone through such a transformation in his life, obviously, and went from his acting to a lot of his makeup and tutorials. And then I hadn't seen him act in a while, and I thought the acting job on Exteriors was phenomenal. I mean, I was just, as soon as I saw it, I had to reach out to him and let him know how fantastic I thought it was.
Doing that. Oh my gosh.
The casting was amazing. So very, very good. Give the listeners, I want you to kind of explain and give a brief synopsis or overview of Brotherly Lies. I think you could probably do it more justice than I could. But let my listeners kind of know what the overview is of that first film.
Well, Brotherly Lies involves two brothers that have a very tragic event in their youthful past that they've never really processed very well. And they're both dealing with trauma around that in two totally separate ways. And there's David, and then there's Lex. Lex is played by Panos Saklis. David is played by Robert Sean Campbell. David is heterosexual. Lex is gay. And David is about to be married. He's got a fiance. And Lex is they both come from a show business family, but both of them are struggling financially. David is his acting career is kind of on the wane, and Lex is trying to recover from a major nervous breakdown that he had earlier in the year. And he's getting the family resort home ready to sell so that he can start a new life in LA fresh. And there was a lot of coverage around the tragedy, a lot of news media. And now it's like everybody, you've got a lot of people that are all in love with the exact wrong person, and they don't see how wrong it is. And so you have all of these people that are trapped in this house that are all avoiding the elephant in the room until they can't anymore. And then it does emerge, and they're forced to deal with it finally in the open. And it changes a lot of lives. Some better, some not. Some are going to have challenges, but I don't think it's a downer of a movie personally. I think it is kind of hopeful a bit. But it's the type of movie, for me, the way I look at it, it's the type of movie that you you pour yourself a glass of wine, you turn the lights down, and you just get absorbed in the characters and the story for 90 minutes and watch it all play out.
Right. No, it is drama. I mean, and it's well-written drama. That's what I like about it. And you talk about they're trapped in this house. The set was amazing. The views, everything in there. How did you find that location? It was a beautiful location.
Thank you. Yeah, well, it served two good purposes. One, it looked great on camera. Two, it had a lot of wide open spaces, actually. It's a lot of big rooms. So there was plenty of room for us to all spread out. This is, again, February of 2021, no vaccines, a lot of airflow. We wanted a lot of airflow. And fortunately, the house belongs to my father. So that also made it very usable, which was good. So we didn't have to worry about any permits or anything like that. But the actors did stay. I had the actors, the ones from LA, they were staying in their own hotel. They were their own kind of pod. And we made sure to keep all that as safe as we could, and everything worked out good. No one got sick, so it worked.
Well, like you said, it was beautiful. You could see the wide open. It looked like there was plenty of room for everyone to move around. Some gorgeous shots there. Talk about what challenges you might have found in the scene. We talked a little bit about you had to even fill in for an actor. How was that to kind of make that big acting debut? You were kind of the rock for a couple of these characters, so to speak. So what was it like to play that character in particular?
Well, I hadn't acted in a while. I did act in high school. I acted in some early independent little films. For me, I've always said I'm really good with two lines. I can do that very well. I can play the shop owner or something. I can do that fine. But I'm certainly not a trained actor, really, in the sense of all of my cast members. But when I did it, the first setup I did was I was pretty rusty. I was pretty stiff. I could feel it. But then my cast really rallied around me. And by the end of my scenes, I was actually back and enjoying it again. And I got comfortable and I started to actually have fun with it. It is very difficult. I would never make a habit of acting in films that I'm directing. It's a lot to do. I don't know how people do it. But for this project, it worked well, and I ended up enjoying it mainly because my cast was so supportive. That's how I ended up doing it, and I'm fine with it. I'm totally satisfied with how I did. I think I did well enough, is what I think.
I think you did an amazing job. Now we talk about you are an openly out filmmaker. You do these open and honest portrayals of all your characters. How do you approach storytelling to ensure authenticity in your representation that'll kind of go with a diverse audience? Like you said, you found a lot of straight audiences really relating to this. Is that intentional, or does it happen by happenstance? Talk about how you approach writing your films to not only appeal to our LGBTQ audience, but to have that resonance with the straight audiences as well.
Another great question. The straight audiences are it's much more happenstance. What I get from them, they like the fact that it's thoughtful. They like the fact that they see gay characters that they don't normally see. That's the feedback I've gotten from them, that they're thoughtful characters. They're gay characters and they're human beings, but they're not, it's not essential to the plot necessarily. It's not the driving force of the plot. Now with gay audiences, I in response to your question, when I'm writing something, right now, the way I do my work, my personal work, is I only write what's interesting to me, because anything I'm going to be working on, it's going to take a year. It just does. A feature film takes a year from blank page to out distribution. It's a year. And so I'm not going to work on anything that doesn't interest me if it's going to take a year. And so if I'm being honest, I don't really write for an audience. I write for me in that. Because I'm the one at this level, if I'm the one that's got to do all the legwork and put it together, it's got to keep me interested. So I'm not really writing for an audience. I'm just writing stories that I haven't seen. I guess that's one motivation. Have I seen this out there? If I haven't seen this in an LGBTQ film, that starts to spark. That gets me interested. And so I'm really not, I'm doing, I guess, maybe what they tell independent filmmakers not to do, which is you got to find your niche audience and you've got to target everything in that niche audience and write exactly that. And I'm not in that camp. I get, maybe it's a Gen X thing, but I just don't, I don't want to, narrow my audience to such an extent.
Well, I love that it's kind of an unofficial sequel to the first film, Exteriors, but let's start by letting the audience know a little bit about Brotherly Lies. If you don't mind, I'd love to play a scene for that film. We'll talk about it a little more on the other side, and then we'll talk about the different scope and your different approach to storytelling in Exteriors, okay? Excellent.
Sure.
All right, everyone. This is a scene from Brotherly Lies from my very special guest today, Mr. Mark Schwab, who's here with us, producer, writer, director, and actor in this first film. You're listening to Left of Str8 Show right here on the Left of Str8 Radio Network. We'll talk to you on the other side.
Hey, Hey. Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, it's nothing.
I guess I'm early.
Ed and Bev aren't here yet?
I mean, you look good, at least. I love that shirt.
Oh, well, my husband hates it.
Well, I respectfully disagree with him.
Normally you can see a ton of stars from here. It's getting cloudy, though. I wonder if it'll rain.
It's fine by me. That'll make cool things off.
Let's hope. Wow, that sounded like thunder.
It's nothing to be scared of.
I know, I was just unsettling.
Well, you look great at least. And I said that already. I'm so sorry.
It's okay, I thanked you already. You know,
Kenny, I'm sorry.
No, please go ahead.
You looked like you were gonna.
No, it's nothing. Sounds like it's getting closer.
It does.
All righty, we are back, and that was a scene from Brotherly Lies from my very special guest today. Mr. Mark Schwab is here. He is the producer, the writer, the director, the actor. He did it all for this film. We've been talking about it, Mark. Just such a great job. What's probably one of your most proudest accomplishments in getting this film put together?
In Brotherly Lies, definitely that we did it. That it actually, the experiment actually worked in a way, in that we to shoot that movie as fast as we did, as tight as we did, with such experimental equipment, and yet it was able to get out on Tubi TV, Apple TV, Amazon Prime. It actually worked. So that I'm very, very proud of that for my cast and to showcase them. So that was the proudest thing, just doing it safely and nobody getting sick. Definitely.
Right. Now, talk about the space of time you had. I mean, you're releasing these relatively close together, a year apart or so.
Year apart,
Talk about bringing this second project together that is now 3 different films, which we'll talk about in a second, but you're incorporating these characters in. Were you writing as you went? Did you write the complete film before you went into shooting for this? Did you write each individual section and they all came together? Talk about the writing of the second film, Exteriors. How did that all come together for you?
Well, originally, I knew I wanted to do this world building thing. You know, I wanted to revisit some of these characters. I hadn't totally decided exactly which ones yet. And then I saw the film Wheel of Fortune and Fantasy, which dealt with 3 stories. It's a wonderful film by Japan. It's by the same director who did Drive My Car. And that kind of went, oh, that's a way to do it, where I could separate these characters into 3 separate stories. Okay. So that was the first bit. And then the first story I wrote I wrote Wyatt first. I wrote the Wyatt story first. And I didn't write, I wrote that first and we shot it. Then I wrote the Jason one with Kenny. And then I wrote the Lex one. So I wrote each script right after we finished filming each section. So we shot Wyatt in September of last year. We shot Jason in October, and then there was a little bit more time between that and Dr. Lesh. We shot the third part in March. And some of that was based on Pano's availability a little bit, and also based on Peter Stickles' availability, because getting Peter was also a real coup for me, because I've always loved the film Short Bus, and I always thought he was superb in that. And he's got that face where there's so much going on behind the eyes without even trying, and he was my only choice for Dr. Lesh. And I reached out to him, and fortunately, he liked the script and was on board. So we shot that in March. And on Dr. Lesh, I really had a good time working with Pano on that script. Pano was the one, I worked with him a few times, and his notes and his suggestions were really important in driving that story. So he definitely deserves some credit for the inspiration on that one. It was wonderful collaborating with him in that way.
Well, that's amazing. I've had Pano on a couple of times before. I mean, you can see that he's a very thinking person's actor. I mean, he's gone from his skateboarding to doing all his social media posts to this acting, and he really has the thought behind all of it. And you can see that even though he makes it seem very free, very carefree, very natural, he has a lot going on upstairs. So
he does.
I love speaking to him whenever I've had him on the show.
Oh, he's a fascinating person, and I'm very, very fortunate to be able to call him a friend too. And I love working with him. We'll work again for sure. I mean, he's a very interesting man. He really is.
That's fantastic. And just that you're saying that the first 2 were shot so close together, that's pretty prolific writing to be able to have an entire second installment of the movie done in 1 month time. Are you normally a pretty fast writer once these things come to you, or did you have it scoped out in your head? Or that's very quick turnaround.
I can write pretty quick if things are firing on all cylinders. I'm kind of either or. I can either write it really quick or it's really difficult. With Jason, the second story, part of the reason I had to shoot that one quickly is because I wanted it to take place outside in the daytime. I wanted it warm, and we were using the pool. So I didn't want them to freeze. I mean, my actors froze on Brotherly Lies. They are so cold. I mean, in that fire pit scene, they are freezing, I tell you. So I didn't want that for this one. I wanted to do it totally opposite. And I also wanted to show different aspects of the house that we didn't really show in Brotherly Lies. I wanted to give different looks. Right. So that's part of the reason I pushed October right there. It's like, the weather's going to start getting cold. I better get it in now. And that worked out, luckily, with Julian. And Jose was very, very helpful in helping cast that film, to find that guy, to find Julian. Because I told Jose, I said, anybody that's playing opposite you, I gave him basically right of approval. And he was very appreciative of that. Yeah, and when Julian came aboard, Julian actually auditioned for Shadows in Mind back in the day. And I found him to be a very interesting actor, and I had kind of bookmarked him. And so I brought him and two other potentials to play Jason. And I wanted Julian. I definitely did. And I was really hoping Jose would pick him as well. And luckily he did. So we were on the same page, and Julian was wonderful. So, and they're terrific together. They really got along very well, and they really liked each other, and it just worked. It really worked.
That's awesome. I mean, the story was so light too, and kind of, I really loved the lightness of it and how they played off each other. I thought it was done fantastically.
I have another thing on the writing. There was another thing with the writing I've wanted to tell you. One thing that inspired the stories is with these characters, with Kenny, with Shane, and with Lex, I wanted them to be put in sort of similar situations, similar moral quandaries that they were facing in Brotherly Lies. And we could watch how they would make different choices now. They've changed in 2.5 years. And I wanted to show, they all liked the idea of seeing how that character had evolved a bit. Not totally 180, but here's a similar situation. Let's see, let's make different decisions around that. And so that was part of the inspiration of each story with those characters. Yeah,
it really came to my attention because I got to see both of them back to back preparing for the interview. So you can definitely see that growth, I will say, in the characters and the new learning experience for them. So I thought that was very well thought out. Well, let's go ahead and take another quick break, and let's play a little bit from Exteriors. Like I said, one of the things I love so much is your use of space, and I think we're going to show one of those scenes here. So, guys, we're going to play the second film that is just going to be hitting the film festival circuit momentarily. Brotherly Lies has been out for a little while now. This is a brand new film coming out called Exteriors from my special guest today, Mr. Mark Schwab. We'll be back and talk about it on the other side. You listen to Left of Str8 Show right here in the Left of Str8 Radio Network.
Were you able to perform sexually on your date? You mentioned in the last session that you were anxious about that.
I didn't. I couldn't.
Why couldn't you?
Because I was thinking about you instead. I'm sorry, Dr. Lash. I'm so nervous.
But don't be.
I just feel I should be completely honest with you.
And I appreciate that, Lex.
It's all kinds of wrong.
No, it's not uncommon in a patient-therapist relationship.
No, just totally unethical. You'd lose your license. Would you go to jail?
In this state, I might.
But if I wasn't your client,
no, that would still be a gray area, Lex.
All righty, we are back. That was a scene from Exteriors, the latest production of my special guest today, Mr. Mark Schwab. Like I said, Mark, just a fantastic film overall. What are your hopes? How soon is it going to be starting to play the festival scene? Do you know where you're going to be submitting it first? Where can our listeners, do you think, find that first from you?
Well, Brotherly Lies, we only entered in one film festival. That was it. And we entered it here at the Cinema Diverse Palm Springs LGBTQ Film Festival. And fortunately, they accepted it. And I had a wonderful time at that film festival. They did a wonderful job projecting it in a lovely theater down there. And they even gave it an award. They gave it an audience favorite award. I'm not sure how it did that or whatever, but it did. And the people at that festival were just excellent. And when I went down there, I had just finished shooting Wyatt, I believed. We had shot it. I hadn't edited it yet, but we just finished shooting that film. And I was telling them about that project, about exteriors, and they said, well, we would love to see that whenever it's done. So here we are. I have submitted it. I don't know if it's in or not, but that would be, I would love to have it debut there because they were just so good to Brotherly Lies. And so that would be the first place that it would show. There's 2 other film festivals. I should have been up on this. One is Sherman Oaks, I believe, the Sherman Oaks Film Festival in LA, and then Seattle, the Seattle Queer Film Fest. I mainly only enter film festivals that I know I can get to, that I have people that I know there, that I can stay, that it's easy to get to. Because I always attend in person. I bet I got to be bleeding out my eyeballs for me not to be there, because I really want to be there, and especially here for Brotherly Lies. Luckily, Jose was there, and Jacob they were there, and being able to go up on stage and talk was great, and meet the people, it was wonderful. And they'll hopefully be there too. I'll hopefully get the whole cast there as well. So this is where where Exteriors would first show. It'll definitely be out on streaming probably by the end of the year, probably by December, depending on a couple things, but most likely December. It'll probably hopefully start popping up on streaming services at the very latest, January, February.
Terrific. I can't wait for everyone else to have a chance to see it. Cinema Diverse, Palm Springs is a second home to me. I've taken my show there for months at a time. I do my big gay road trip to Palm Springs the years before the pandemic. I'm hoping to start it again this year or next. But they are such a great and appreciative film crowd there, LGBT especially. And I think that's a great place to show it. How exciting!
They were wonderful. Well, amazing. That was why everybody asked me, why them when I entered. Why the only place I entered Brotherly Lies was there. But when I looked at their past festivals, they had a wonderfully diverse lineup of films, genuinely diverse. Where these are some thoughtful films. These are films that Brotherly Lies might fit. And they proved me correct. So they were again very accommodating, very nice, and so supportive. They did a wonderful Q&A, and I did ask them. I said, "I'm so glad you programmed it. It's not a typical kind of LGBTQ film festival film necessarily." And they said, "Oh no, we liked it right away. This was different. That's why they programmed it," which is, thank God they got it. They said, "This is genuinely different. We don't see this." Right. And we liked it. And so hopefully they'll see the same in Exteriors.
Well, it's a great group of people down there, and I can't say enough about them either. So that is very awesome. We will look to that, and if it gets accepted, maybe I'll even come down and see some of my old friends and everything. That'll be a great
lots of pictures. I will take lots of pictures with you. First margaritas are on me.
What is next for Diamond in the Rough Films? Do you have anything you're writing on right now? Or are you just working on getting this Exteriors out right now? Or what's in the works for Mark Schwab right now?
Well, I am working on getting this out. That's true. But there are 2 projects. One actually is a sort of thriller movie that I am writing, but not for me to direct, for my co-business partner to direct. Mark Balunas is going to direct that. Which will be wonderful. I'll love what he's directed a number of short films, including an award-winning short film, and to see him do a feature will be terrific. And that's going to be fun. That's an interesting thriller. But then for me, the next thing I'm working on is actually a series. It's the first time I'm really tackling something episodic. It's very gay, I can tell you that. And it's very, very, it's different for me. I would say it's definitely a little edgier. It's a little sexier. But it's something that I do want to try out. And I have approached some of my stock company about it, and they're very excited about it. I've gotten tremendous feedback from them. And it also might be the first time I'll work with an actual streaming service to do it. It's that's still being talked about, but I'll make it no matter what. I mean, I'll make it, but there is another streaming service that has shown definitely some interest, and doing a few meetings, but they better not wait too long because I want to make the thing, and I don't ask permission to make movies. So. But that's going to be fun. I'll let you know. I can let you know much more about that off air if you want.
Definitely. I'd love to have the inside scoop on that.
You will
I'll
get
have
it.
to make sure you get, when this horror thriller goes, get you on Michael Verratti's show or Scream Queers podcast. They're both good friends of the show, and they would love to talk about things like that. So that would be amazing. All right. Well, Mark Schwab, it's been fantastic having you back on the show. Guys, you have to check out right now. Brotherly Lies is on demand. You'll be able to see that. And be sure to look for the streaming, hopefully coming out a little later this year for Exteriors. Mark, let everyone know where they can find you on social media and where they can find your films at.
Sure. Best way you can find me is www.ditrfilms.com, or if you just Google Diamond in the Rough Films, all the stuff will come up. We're DITR Films on Instagram and Twitter as well. And through the website, I believe you can reach me directly. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. I answer my email. I love hearing from folks. And you can, Brotherly Lies is pretty easy to find. There's, Tubi, Apple TV, Amazon Prime, Momatu, Look Who. Those are, and it's coming out on more as well. But those are the places you can pretty easily find it. It's easy to find if you search for it.
Fantastic. Well, Mark Schwab, it's always a pleasure having you on the show. I enjoy your films immensely. Thanks so much for coming on the Left of Str8 Show again, my friend.
Thank you so much, Scott. I will come on anytime and love doing it.
I love it. Stay on the line for me, guys. We're going to have a 5 questions with Mark next Tuesday, so be sure to look for that. And you're listening to the Left of Str8 Show right here on the Left of Str8 Radio Network. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye. Hey, everyone. Welcome to my Patreon page. I hope you're here to support the Left of Str8 Radio Network. We have been podcasting for 9 years now. We just celebrated our 8-year anniversary show on July 3rd, and we are in our 9th year. And I hope you'll help us continue to be on the air and support LGBTQ radio and our straight allies. We launched this Patreon page to help defray some of the costs for hosting and for video and for everything that we need on here. It would be my honor and privilege to get to know you all. I have 3 tiers on here to pledge. We don't want it to be a hardship for anybody, but if you can part with just a little bit money each month, it would really help support the radio show and the station. For just $3 a month, just the price of a cup of coffee, we're going to give you a huge thank you on the Left of Str8 website. Plus, I'm going to send you a personalized postcard from me for thanking in the effort. For just a little bit more, for $8 a month, what I call the price of coffee and a bagel each month, I also give you the first tier of the postcard and the shout out. And you also get to listen to all the episodes before anybody else, commercial free, along with an I Support LGBTQ Radio sticker and 10% off merchandise in our upcoming LGBT store for the Left of Str8 Radio. And then the third tier you can pledge to, if you can set aside money for coffee and lunch, just $13 a month. Besides everything in the first 2 tiers, you also have the opportunity to listen live in one of our live recordings, one of our interviews with a celebrity or personality from entertainment, foodies, books, music, or advocacy. You can ask some questions. You can get a special Left of Str8 Radio tote bag and 20% off merchandise in the upcoming store. So thank you for stopping by Patreon. I hope you will donate each month. And thanks for being a great supporter of LGBTQ radio and helping us keep on the air. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to The Left of Str8 Show. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast distributor, and please give us a 5-star rating so more listeners can find us. You can follow us on social media, and be sure to check out our website, www.leftofstraightradio.com, for contests and other news and information. See you next week.